Greetings, God bless, and welcome back. So, I wanted to make an observation and see if you guys can relate that it seems like people are like they're not being empathetic to other people, and they don't even seem to have a sense of self preservation. And I would say this, like I noticed this, I would say 2020, when the whole lockdown thing started, and uh, everybody just was like an authoritarian. They were just like, I'm going to do what the authorities tell me to do, no matter what. If they tell me to jump off a building, I'm going to jump off a building. And they literally jumped off buildings. They literally had their children jump off buildings and their elderly family members jump off buildings and just everybody that they could. And uh, and that is has been erased from the mind. It's like there's a literal amnesia of what went on um, during this horrible time of humanity. And so, like, everything that was going on, there was so much going on in this part of the body, right? Whether people were suffocating themselves, breathing in their body waste, so it went up, into their sinuses and possibly crossed the blood-brain barrier, and so they got maybe encephalitis, like a brain infection, and also with the stabbing at the cryptform plate, bloody noses. I read accounts or saw videos where that was how these non-medical, they were not medical testers. These were just people off the street getting paid an hourly rate to break your cryptform plate, your blood-brain barrier, with these hard, um, like brushes. So what could that do? So not only has the cryptform plate been broken, and these brushes leaving debris, but then they continue to wear a mask, which then exposes their brain to staph or whatever type of stuff that's in your mouth. And we know that the human mouth is the most dirty place. So so it just seems it's logical to me that so many things, not to mention stuff's being sprayed in the air, all the chemicals, oh my gosh, like people were spraying the most toxic chemicals all the time during 2021, 2020, 2021. I mean, everywhere you go, everywhere you stand, they'd be like spraying. It was just such a nightmare. And so that's hard on the body. and and the brain. And that is my point, is I think that this was an effort to cause brain damage in people, and in particular the hippocampus. And not only, I mean, of course, we know that the globalists want to us to be dumbed down. We are totally the movie Idiocracy these days. Just look at the news. Uh, and but not only have we been dumbed down, but our humanity, like they're trying to destroy, I think medicine, the globalists through medicine are trying to destroy our humanity with destroying the hippocampus, which is where our empathy is. Because people do not seem to have empathy. I mean, of course, social media has damaged, brain damaged us as well, and seems to have eroded our empathy for each other, like common sense that we had 30 years ago. I mean, common sense that the worst of us had 30 years ago isn't in the best of us nowadays. It's terrible. I mean, I bet that people who were sentenced to prison for like 50 years or 70 years, who are still in prison for some heinous crime from 70 years ago, 50 years ago, they're probably better people than a lot of good people out in the world today. Like what is up with that? Um and like something like there's been this deliberate attack on humanity and in the best of humanity, in the Christian human. And I know some people will be offended at me saying that, but um, we have the Ten Commandments that definitely has informed Western society, and it's honor your mother and father, don't kill other people, don't envy other people, you know, have have time with your God. And the reason why those Ten Commandments were brought down by Moses to his people who were then worshiping a bull, that same bull that we saw featured at the Olympics. um, like the reason why he came down with that information, those Ten Commandments, to his people, Moses uh, had this information because those people didn't know you shouldn't be killing people, shouldn't be raping people, you should be obeying your mother and father. Like that is the nature of humanity. And we in the West are so blessed, we don't even realize how how advanced of a technology, social technology it is, to not be killing anybody at will. Like Cain killed Abel, and it probably wasn't like it was just like it was the first time anybody murdered anybody, and folks were probably like they didn't even maybe know, wow, that shouldn't happen, like that's wrong. It was just like a force of nature, like wow, the wind came through, and there wasn't a whole ethical, moral code that we have now. so, so I think like we need to understand that people's brains have been harmed and damaged, and people have been traumatized, and their hippocampus has been damaged. So that's why the people are so crazy when they're driving, and I think that's why there's all this virtue signaling going on. Everybody, so many people are doing this virtue signaling. I mean, the mask was like this virtue signaling, and you know bragging about getting injected was another virtue signaling, and changing like the overlay on the Facebook. I'm BLM, I'm Ukraine, now I'm Palestine. Um, like I think folks could tell. Like I think people who are so vocal about people that they have nothing to do with, like people who don't have many Black friends, who are struggling or whatever, or don't know anybody who's Palestinian or don't know anybody who's Ukrainian, but that's their whole life. That's now their whole life. That's what they're focusing on. Like folks who aren't in the LBGT community are like focusing. That's their whole life. That's what they're sending their kids to. Like, so I think folks can tell that they've lost their humanity. They've lost their hippocampal full functioning of their hippocampus. And so they want to say, well, I'm still a human being. I still have empathy. So I'm going to put it on this flag. I'm going to put this on my lawn, sign. That's my hippocampus. And it's interesting that human beings are so, like, we know that there's something wrong when the hippocampus isn't functioning or if it's shrunk. And this is like a poor substitute, like having your lawn sign and attacking people's cars because of their bumper sticker. And we know who it is. It's generally the left who's assaulting the right. And the right's just like pro-life, like the right isn't doing anything. Like as of 2024, the right isn't doing anything. And anybody who seems to be doing something, it always comes down to they're like working for the CIA. And the CIA is deep state satanic cult. Like who fund families and stuff. Like that's where your taxpayer money is going to. It's going to deep dark stuff. That's not the roads and whatever. Whoever's, yeah. So uh, I think it's important for people to realize that folks are brain damaged, their humanity is severely compromised. And I think, so people are in this reptilian brain kind of a thing. Like that's what I've been struggling with is like people are just so competitive right now. Like women are so competitive and women can be especially mean. But when they don't have any compassion, any heart, when they're just about their self-interest and their domination, it just is it's just, I mean, and men can be terrible too, but I just find as I get older that women are get to this other level, like just this vicious just destruction, like they want to end you, um, in the sneakiest ways possible. So so I think it's important for people to realize people who still have hippocampal function, um, people who still have feelings for human beings, people who still have their humanity. I think it's important to realize that other folks have been brain damaged where they're not in touch with their humanity and they're in this like reptilian, uh, survival mode. And maybe everybody's known that noticed this, but me and maybe it's been long. This has been happening a long time ago. Uh, but I just wanted to share in case it was might be helpful for somebody else to hear. So I think we need to realize that, especially with the testing that broke the crib form plate and the masking that exposed and chemicals, because we when we are exhaling, is this just for fun? No, this is because we're exhaling waste. We're exhaling waste from our lungs, from our sinuses, and whatnot. And so then when we have this waste concentrate on a piece of fabric that's there all day, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 24 hours a day, you breathe it in. And so you have this petri dish that you now have exposed your broken crib form plate to. So I think people are like in a brain damaged state, brain infectious state. And I'm like, for people who wear, especially that are still wearing masks as of August 2024, I'm like, I don't even want to stand next to them because their biome must be so toxic. If they're, like their brain is just a sponge for all these microbes and stuff. So, it's not you. It's the weaponized fear mongering where they got to stab people's cryptform plate. Like that was it was an Egyptian technique, an ancient Egyptian technique to punish slaves was to break the cryptform plate of the slave because it led to a slow death. So that's what happened. And so it's like is basically the deep state was like slaves line up so we can punish you. And the slaves lined up and they lined their kids up and they lined their family members and their friends up and themselves. And they let their brain be damaged by the deep state. And the deep state got to put whatever it wanted into the sinuses. They got to take whatever it wanted from the sinuses. I mean, it's just uh, it's horrific. And this is a punishment that Egypt did since those times, like in since ancient times, and they're doing it again. And unfortunately, like what's so sad is having to observe what how people are so willing to surrender their health and their freedom to authorities, and the authorities will abuse it, and people will still capitulate to people who are outright abusing them. It seems to me. I mean, every once in a while, a family or a parent um, will like leave the state when the state's trying to change the sex of the kid against the parent's will, because the state's going to arrest the parent or something like that. I mean, how is it that we're in this crazy situation? And when I try to talk to my leftist friends, they're like, "Don't talk to me about this." It's like if we don't talk about these horrible things that are going on, they're going to continue. It's not going to work out. And if I wanted to talk about how sad things were for the Floyd guy, I'm sure they would talk about it. So it's like they don't want to talk about um like one side they want to reinforce, they want their echo chamber, they want to reinforce what they think about life. They want to be validated and vindicated. So folks, be aware that we're walking around brain damaged people who've had their humanity possibly destroyed, their hippocampus. And so they don't have empathy for you and they don't have self preservation for themselves. So that's like anarchy. Uh, and so, when you're driving or whatever, it's always good to be paying attention and not assuming that everybody else is going to, um, make way for you or do the right thing. Um, it seems to me. So hopefully things are going to get better. I don't really see it getting better, but uh, like I know some people that I think are misguided, but they're like, there's these med beds and they're going to fix things. So, and it's going to happen. Like months ago, they were like, it's going to happen. And of course it didn't happen in June when they said it was going to happen, but maybe there is some wonderful technology that's going to heal everybody. So I definitely am up for that, and so we can only pray. So, what do you guys think? Thanks for watching. God bless.